So the constable's house is at 9 Miners Trail South, and that is right here on the map in the southern part of Phandalin. The kids would run this direction, or maybe across this way, knowing kids, past the Stonehill Inn, which is number 2 here. Here, Stonehill Inn. They continue up here and run to the office of the constable, which is building number 4. So we won't load the probability. Let's do an even roll. Red is the no dice. Do the kids find their father at the office of the constable? No, they do not. So where the heck could he be? I think the next place the kids would look would be the Tresendar Manor to check with the heroes to see if their dad is up there with them. Okay, we can't have a maybe. We need an answer. No, they're not at the constable's not at the Tresendar Manor. So correction, building 2 is not the office, or is not the Stonehill Inn. That's building 1 here. Building 2 is the Town Master's Hall. So once the kids check the constable's office, Tresendar Manor, they'll run back to check the Town Master's Hall and see if their dad is there. Red is the no dice. Can't have a maybe. Yes, he is at the Town Master's Hall. So next we'll check to see if any of the constable's deputies are with him. Is Shreesha with him? Yes. Is Bayul with him, the Luxodon? Yes. So Shreesha and Bayul. What about Theron? No, Theron's not with him. So Shreesha and Bayul. Okay, so we don't know where Theron is. We'll have to assume he was not at the constable's office when the kids showed up earlier. So the constable has to decide what to do with his kids. He might ask Shreesha to take the kids back to the constable's office and stay there with them. I think that's pretty much a given. She would agree. So that would leave the constable and Bayul to search around the house, inside the house and around the house and around the property for any clues or any trails that they could see, if maybe the constable's wife was smart enough to drop anything or leave some sort of scuff trail or whatever through the dirt. So we'll determine that next. So searching too close to the house isn't going to be very helpful, so they will move out away from the house to the south, to the edge of the ward, which is far enough away from the house where if they can find a clue, it'll give them at least some indication of the direction that they took his wife. So let's ask the Oracle, do they find something? No is the red dice. No, they do not find anything. So we can assume that the constable and Bayul came down here to where the ward is, and finding nothing there, I guess they would try and maybe go to one of the surrounding houses to see if anybody saw anything. So number 7 here is Hollia Thornton. That's her home. And Meryl's not there, we know that. But Hollia, let's see if she's there. No, she's not in the house. Now, number 6 here is private residence, Perenelle Ginola, missing. Number 8 here is private residence, Dulcibella Charbonnier, missing. And the last house to the south in Phandalin is 10, which is Miners Trail Poultry Farm, owned by Hilmer Tanzel. And that Townsfolk is missing as well. So having gone to all these houses, the most likely candidates for seeing something as they dragged his wife or made her walk or whatever happened, they're just running out of luck. The guys are running out of luck here. Have to think about what they would try next. Well, let's see if they would call an evening meeting with, a gathering of all the townsfolk, so they could bring in Holly, Theron, everybody that's missing so far, other than those people that are marked missing, who are just permanently missing from the original attack. So I'm gonna make it highly likely that they would call a meeting in the evening. And yes, they do call a meeting in the evening. So the next logical question would be, with all the townsfolk there, would any of them have seen anything in regards to this incursion and abduction, kidnapping? It's going to be an even roll. I don't think I can stack the dice one way or the other. It's just totally random. No. Look at that. Nobody saw a thing. None of them. So it's obvious that the kids were there during the fight, and they may have seen the general direction in which their mother was taken before they ran off. And that's generally the area where the constable and Bayul searched at first towards the edge of the ward. The tricky part is sending people past the ward and toward the siege line. That could be more tricky. Let's find out if Blackfang took her to a very, very hard to find location. Yes, he did. Sorry, that was a maybe. So we need an answer. Did he take her to a very hard to find location? No, he did not. Of course, the constable and Bayul would not know any of this. This is just basically for the DM. The DM must play. Let's ask the Oracle if she was simply taken into a tent somewhere along the siege line. No, she was not. Interesting. Okay, so this is getting difficult because with the Dice Oracle, we have a situation where Blackfang's people did not take her anywhere hard to find, but at the same time, they did not just take her to a tent somewhere along the siege line. So this is where, like with a system called Mythic, you might start rolling to get some random words to introduce ideas into your brain, but I like to try to come up with stuff on my own without using those. Just stuff that would make sense to the actual situation in the campaign. So one of the simplest ideas would be, if they did not take her into a tent on the siege line, and it is not a place that's hard to find, you could ask the Oracle if they took her to an open field somewhere with some guards and tied her to a pole. So basically she would be visible from the air or from, any line of sight that was able to see her. Yes, that's exactly what they did. So obviously, we're working towards getting a mission scenario going here. Let's find out how many guards are around the constable's wife. Oh my gosh. There are 9 guards around. That's tough. So the next question might be, are these guards elite? Yes, they are elite, so we'd use an elite stat block from the 5e book. Are there any magic users among these 9 elite guards? No, so they're just basic guards. So Blackfang's army has more than just goblins. There's orcs and other creatures. Are these guards, these elite guards, makes more sense for them to be something other than goblins. Are hobgoblins? Are they hobgoblins? No, they're not hobgoblins. Are they orcs? Yes, they are orcs. So now we need to place where this scenario could take place on the tabletop. So most likely the constable's wife was taken to the south. So is this field that they have her in to the south? Or did they move her to the west or east? It's got to be a yes or no. No, it's not to the south. Is it to the west? No. Is it to the east? Yes. So that means the human mercenaries would have taken her from here, crossed through the ward, and handed her off to the orcs somewhere to the east of Phandalin, past the siege line here, so somewhere in a field out here, obviously outside of line of sight from the town, so we'll see if they can figure out how to find her over there. Okay, so I I updated the timeline entries. The last line here, fortunately, neither are injured, speaking of Lander and Kethra, but they cannot stop the abduction. They run to inform their father, who is at the townmaster's hall with Bayul and Shreesha. And then at 10 bells plus 30 minutes in the morning, while Shreesha watches the kids, the constable and Bayul search the constable's house and also outside as far south as the ward edge, and they find no clues. They then go to Halia's house to see if she might have witnessed anything, but she is not home. They decide that they will have to call an urgent town meeting to see if anyone else might have witnessed anything. And then at 8 bells in the evening, the urgent meeting reveals that not one of the townsfolk saw anything that would help further in tracking the kidnapping. And that brings us pretty much up to date. There's still some stuff to work out. All right, so here we have the current population of Phandalin as of the 24th Kythorn. Everybody was at the urgent meeting, except for Amber, of course, who was kidnapped, and then Merrill Finchway Teabottom, who's a hero of Phandalin, but he's out of town. The other 2 heroes of Phandalin were there, Janos and Kosif, and Dunbar Fergan was there, who was also, until only recently, a hero of Phandalin, but had a disagreement with Janos. So the big question becomes for the constable, and the kids were all of them were at the meeting, because nobody is willing to leave their kids right now. The big question for the constable is, where will he spend the night? Since his house has been targeted, he may not want to stay there with his kids. So let's find out, first of all, I think it's highly likely. Actually, it depends on how I want to think of the constable's attitude. He may be proud and not want to say that he won't stay at his house. So I'll just make it likely that he won't want to stay at his house instead of highly likely. So see what happens. Red is the no die. Yes, he decides that he will not stay at his house. So the Stonehill Inn only has one nice room before it was ravaged. I should say after it was ravaged by the goblins, before they were cleared out of the town. And then the Lapping Brook Waterhouse, where Tully and Corvus are, has 3 rooms, one of which is taken by Dunbar. So it's highly likely that the constable will stay at the Lapping Brook Waterhouse. Let's see what happens. Oh, I lost my red. Where is it? 3. Yeah, so he's going to stay at the Lapping Brook Waterhouse. Now, will the townsfolk, they got to set up who's going to guard the town, who's going to go on any missions or anything like that. So will they decide as a group, especially the heroes, will they decide to do a night search? I think it's highly likely. Red is the no die. Yes, they will do a night search. And then the question becomes, will the constable go too? That's a good one. Let's make this a neutral. Maybe he won't want to leave his kid. No, the constable will not want to go. So it'll be the heroes of Phandalin. Now the big question for Dunbar is if Janos goes, he probably won't want to go. So will Janos go? I think it's a neutral. Yes, Janos will go, so that means Dunbar will not go.